Okay, so the session is now being recorded. Let's just allow a few more people to roll in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Give everyone. Let's start at 7:33. That's in 2 minutes.
Perfect.
All right.
Nice logo.
It's actually the more attractive picture of me. This one right here.
100% it is. Did you
Yeah.
get a tattoo of that yet?
No, but I know this guy who actually tattooed his rib cage with it.
No love.
I'll have to introduce you guys.
Yeah. That guy's an idiot. Ugh.
Anyway, on that note, so Christine, how are you?
I am good. How is everybody else doing?
Doing good.
Doing great.
Christine, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're trekking for a cause with us, right?
I am trekking for my own cause. Yes, Team Twinspirational.
Yes.
Basically, I am a stage 4 ovarian cancer survivor, and we hiked up Mount Kilimanjaro in 2023 to raise awareness and hope. And my 14-year-old sons and I successfully summited. My husband did not. So this July, we are headed back to hopefully summit round 2 with my husband in tow this time. So that should be good training for some Everesting in October.
Yep. So real quick, since we're waiting for other people to roll in, we put your story up on our page on our website. For those that are interested,
Nice.
you can go read about it. That's you, right? That's your story, right?
That is me.
Yep. Perfect.
Wow. Thank you.
And then
we still have spots on our Kili team if anybody's interested.
Yeah, very cool.
Nice.
And also what I'd like to do now is share this real quick. We're about to talk about fueling your experience, and we've been experimenting with sponsors. We're coming up on the beginning of our 3rd season, and we're going to be producing our 4th event series here in June. And we've got very fortunate. Scratch Labs is a pretty well-known brand inside the ultra marathoning world and endurance world, and had lengthy conversations with them, and they sponsor us by giving us in-kind donations of product and for our event series. And then one of the other really cool things I'll share with you before we get started is that we actually renamed our Olympus Mons Ultra to be a title sponsorship as Powered by Scratch Labs. So that's kind of cool that they would do that with us. And I'm real excited about continuing that relationship. So that's a little plug for who we use for our hydration and our energy gummies. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to the trained professionals, Coach Patty and Dr. Scott Festa, and you guys can get started. So go right ahead.
All right. Thank you, John. Well, thank you guys for joining us. I'm Coach Patty, and we're going to be talking about fueling and hydration. And the Scratch Labs is a great product, and we'll talk about that even a little bit more in a moment. I thought it would be kind of pertinent to begin by saying that there is no one perfect way to fuel. There's the perfect way for you, and we're all a little bit different. And we're going to kind of talk about that. But I thought it would kind of be fun to work from a high end and work backwards a bit. And I have asked Dr. Scott if he would talk to us about how he fueled. So as John likes to say, he's the first Olympus Mons non-finisher and the first Olympus Mons finisher. If you don't know about Olympus Mons, it's 2.5 times Mount Everest. It is the highest mountain in the solar system. So Scott has hiked 72,590 feet. It's 152 plus miles, 122 laps, 84 hours, which is not a lot of time. It is an amazing accomplishment. So obviously Scott knows how to fuel and hydrate, or he would have never done that. So I would love to turn it over to Scott and have him tell us a little bit about how he fueled and hydrated.
Okay, so I'm gonna go just a little bit of a backstory to when I hiked the Appalachian Trail, because I think it's a little bit important. And when I first started hiking the Appalachian Trail, and this is going to sound nasty, it's okay. I would take in the morning, I would boil some water for some tea, and I'd put 2 tea bags in there, and then I would take 2 Carnation instant breakfast drinks, vanilla, and put them in there, and then I would take 2 Pop-Tarts, strawberry,
Oh my
and crush them
God.
up and put them in there. And then I would drink slash eat that. And that would last me easily until noon. And then probably with just in a couple of weeks, I revamped that where I just took out the Pop-Tarts because honestly, I was just lazy. And I didn't feel like carrying the weight. So, but I really fell in love with some type of breakfast drink, and then on the Appalachian Trail, you're going to use powder because it weighs less. So fast forward to Olympus Mons, the first time I attempted it, I put a gallon of water at the top and I put a gallon of water at the bottom, and I didn't drink it. Right, I would come down and I'd have a sip here and there, whatever. And I traditionally don't drink a lot of water to begin with, but I knew that I had to really force hydrate in this. Um, so much so that, like, on the Appalachian Trail, I would hike 30 miles and only drink 2 liters of water for the entire day. Um, but I knew I couldn't do this. And that hydration was not a huge factor in why I didn't finish the first time, but it had to have played a small portion. So when I went back to finish it, excuse me, I went to Walmart and I bought some Ensure drinks, and they came in an 8-ounce bottle, like this big. And I want to say it was an 8-pack. Let's just say it was an 8-pack. And every morning I would take 2 of those and I would down them, and that would be what I would start my day with, that and a cup of tea. If you know anything about me, I always have a cup of tea in the morning. So that would be what I would go with. And then I would take one of those bottles and put it at the bottom of the mountain. And and I'd walk the other one up and I would just throw it at the top of the mountain. And there were 2 Gatorade 5-gallon water jugs up at the top, one at the top, one at the bottom. And I made a conscious effort at every turnaround and it always didn't happen, or didn't always happen, but I made a conscious effort to try to have 8 ounces of fluid at the top and then 8 ounces of fluid at the bottom. And I also tried to make a conscious effort to have, in addition to that, I threw a box Propel, the small packet, one at the top and one at the bottom. And then every 5-ish laps, I would mix one of those in, down it, and then go back down. And I would alternate those where, I was doing them here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, kind of that way. And just that forced hydration and really cognizant of my electrolytes as well, right? And I didn't have any bananas. I didn't have any. I didn't actually eat a whole lot on the trail or at the event, and I normally don't. I just kind of move. And that was my hydration goal: is to not get behind the power curve and just kind of stay ahead of it, or at least even keel. And that it was the first time in my hiking career that I did notice a difference in my stamina, that I did notice a difference in my performance. And so I think that will probably be, because I think I'm going to do an event while I'm there this June. I haven't decided which one, but that will be my MO. That I will start off with liquid protein and then boom, 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 up and down every 5 with Propel. And you can use anything. I used Propel because they were already pre-measured. I had, like if, and I think at the time, I don't think that we were sponsored by anybody. And we're sponsored by somebody this go around for an electrolyte, then I'll just use theirs and not give it a second thought. But I think that does that help?
Yeah.
And
So I wanna mention two things about what you said. Like you said you don't want to get behind the curve on hydration, right? And so
yeah,
I remember I was in an event, not our event, but I was in an event a couple years back, and I was forced to wait around to start. It was a triathlon, and we were all jumping off of a boat or something, off of a ferry boat, and we're in the hot sun, and there was nothing to drink, and we were all out there for way too long waiting for our waves to start, and I got dehydrated. And no amount of drinking the rest of that race, the rest of the
yep.
triathlon helped. No amount, like the only thing that helped was electrolytes, but that was when I was done. I struggled through the whole thing because I got behind on my hydration, right?
Yep.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, John. And thank you, Scott. And that, so we'll just kind of use that to segue in. That is one of the things that is of key importance. So you have two things. You've got to fuel your body and you have to hydrate your body. You are not going to be able to put back in everything that you expend, and that's fuel and water. But you want to do your best. When it comes to hydration, it is far, far harder. Just like John was talking about, it is much harder to get back on track with hydration. So what happens as your body starts to dehydrate, your absorption in your small intestine goes down. It's even harder to hydrate. So once you're behind the 8 ball on hydration, it's very, very hard to get back up. If you get behind the 8 ball on fuel, it's not that hard to catch up, but hydration, you just have to stay ahead of. So I know in the events that I've done, I'm pretty adamant about staying hydrated, but I drink a lot of water all the time anyway, so it's not a big deal for me. But staying hydrated, and then as Scott mentioned, paying attention to your electrolytes, because it's a ratio. Having the correct electrolytes will allow your body to actually absorb and use the water. So you kind of have to make sure you get that balance somewhere in there. It doesn't have to be super precise, but you do want to have that, but you have to stay hydrated. So you heard Scott talk about having water at the top and water at the bottom and making sure he was getting a certain amount in. And everybody's got a different way of doing things. Most people that works great for. Just because I'm used to it, I always have a Camelback on because I like to sip as I go. A lot of people don't want that weight, but I have that, and I can kind of keep track of how much I'm drinking and when I need to add some electrolytes in. But whatever works for you, the more, and Scott, I'd be interested to hear from you in a second, but the more you go, the longer and longer I get into an endurance event, I get to where I'm not hungry, I'm not thirsty, but you do it anyway. It's just you may not feel like stopping to put gas in your car, but if you don't, you're not going anywhere. So you kind of have to have a plan, and you have to stick to your plan as long as it's working. And if it's not working, you have to change your plan. So, So Scott, how did you, do you feel like when you, you had such a long endurance event. Does your body start to get to a point where you just don't want to drink and you don't want to eat, but you make yourself do it anyway?
And I forgot to mention that and I think we might have some dogs that are going to go crazy in a minute. If so, I'm just going to mute real quick and then I'll get back. Babe, check the door. One of the most dangerous times. I was in the Army for 32 years, and I was a PA in the Army for a really long time, and I covered a lot of endurance events for soldiers. And I noticed a trend, and then I noticed endurance athletes as well. The most dangerous time for hydration and electrolyte imbalance is the last 10%. Right? Because what happens is you do not feel like eating. You don't feel like doing this. You don't feel like that. And then you say to yourself, you know what? I've only got 10 more miles to go. I've gone X amount. I've only got 10 to go. And you break from your plan, right? Or you see that, you're looking at your time and you're going, okay, if I don't stop for water, I can PR. Or if I don't stop for this or that or whatever, I can have a better time, right? And then so that's when you kind of get into that danger zone, and that's when you get a lot of those heat casualties or those DNF or whatever it is that you want to call that. And so it's exactly right. Your body just kind of shuts off, and then mentally you're like, oh, I can do this. I've only got this much left to do. I'll be fine. Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you. So, and talking about with the hydration, so John was asking in the chat, like, what about the electrolytes? Let's talk about that just a tiny bit. So your body, you lose moisture from sweating, you lose moisture through respiration, breathing. And like I said, it's a balance, water and electrolytes. Your electrolytes are like sodium, potassium, magnesium. You can get your electrolytes through food. You can also get them through electrolyte supplements. It's kind of up to you. But what happens is if you don't have the correct electrolytes, you can't stay hydrated. And so it's like this horrible downward spiral. Best case scenario, what happens is you get fatigued, you get lightheaded, and you get cramps. Worst case scenario is you get irregular heartbeats, you get heat stress, and you die. So it does matter. You've got, like I said, there's no perfect way. There's a wide variety of ways to handle this. I have friends who do endurance events that depend completely on just their sense. If they're craving something salty, they know they need more sodium and they're eating all the stuff and putting it in. I have a tendency to not want to eat, but I'm a very heavy sweater and I know I have to get the electrolytes in. So I kind of have a formula that I've worked out, and I don't like doing the drinks just because I don't like the flavor. That's just me. Most people do great with drinks. And Scratch Labs has a great drink, by the way. But I do an electrolyte pill, but I know that every 32 ounces, I need to take that in. And so I pay attention to my Camelback. I only fill it, like for the last event that I did with IronHike, I only filled it about halfway because I knew I didn't need that much. It's a fairly short ascent and descent, but I refilled it regularly and stayed on top. So you can be kind of scientific about it, or you can just say, I'm craving something sweet, I must need energy. I'm craving something salty, I probably need electrolytes. But you have to have those things in. So as I said, if you get behind on hydration, as you start to dehydrate, it's harder and harder for your body to actually absorb water. It's a horrible downward spiral. So you have to come up with some plan. I recommend, and you can eyeball this, you don't have to be super scientific about it, but kind of figure out, do you sweat a lot? Are you a medium sweater? Are you a low sweater? Knowing that like the next IronHike event is summer, you're still going to perspire even if it's cold in the evening or whatever, but pay attention to that. I'm a super heavy sweater, but I'm not a high salt sweater. So you also have to kind of pay attention to that. Like, do you leave white stains on your shirt when you sweat or not? Start playing with it during your training because it's really important to get that down and to have a plan. Like Scott, you can leave stuff at the top or the bottom. I saw a lot of that at the last IronHike. It's brilliant. And then you don't have to carry anything with you. Or there were some of us that had on like, the running vest or the Camelbacks. Whatever works for you is what you need to do. But definitely have a plan and make sure that you stay on top of electrolytes as well as water. So that's super important. But then there's also food, fuel, right? So you got to have gas in the tank. Again, if you're not fueling properly, you're going to fatigue. Anything goes at an event like this. IronHike has the whole gamut. You can go anywhere from like being in a relay and doing just a few laps with your friends, maybe doing the 12-hour hike, all the way up to like the amazing event that Scott did, Olympus Mons. But you still have to fuel your body. You're going to be moving. You are expending energy. What I think is helpful to know is that you cannot replace everything you burn. You cannot during the event, right? You just can't. So it depends on your size and how hard you're going and how fast you're going, but you're going to burn anywhere between, this is rough guess, between 200 and 500 calories an hour in addition to your regular calorie burn during the event. You're not going to eat 500 calories an hour if you're like an athlete like Scott. It would weigh you down, you'd get sick, right? But you do still have to eat. So kind of just a very generalized idea is putting in somewhere between 150 to 400 calories an hour. Now, if you're a smaller female, if you can get 150 to 200 calories an hour, that's fantastic. If you're a larger male and you're exerting yourself, you're going to need a lot more than that. But that's kind of a good thing to play with. The idea is not to have so much in your stomach that it weighs you down and you get intestinal distress. This is where, again, the Scratch Labs comes in really nice. I used the little chews quite a few times. They're only like 80 calories, but it's a small handful. It's quick fuel. It's straight sugar, but you're like, right? I also then would put in at the bottom, I would have a mix. My body personally works best on like all the macronutrients. So certain endurance athletes will go straight carbs until they're done. Some people work better burning primarily fat. I did better with I like all of it. And I always put a little bit of protein in too, because I like to rebuild my muscle as I'm tearing it down. But you'll know what's best, right? So, like Christine, you've already done some climbing. You know how your body's going to react. You want to start kind of fine tuning and honing in, like, what works best for you. How do you feel best? It's great to practice while you're training. Like, what makes you feel best? What gives you the best energy burn? What helps you keep going? What tastes fantastic after you've been climbing for a while? I mean, I normally eat super clean, but man, like peanut butter and jelly sandwich rocked my world on the mountain. So, you kind of figure out what it is. Or like Scott, he knew like Ensure, Propel, like you find what works for you, and then you start practicing it during your long training, because you don't want to like try anything new on event day. Yeah, so John, thank you. I'm just now looking at the chat, and he's like, is there a rule about not trying anything new on event day? Absolutely. It's the worst idea ever. You never want to try anything new on event day, because if you get the gastrointestinal distress, you're going to spend a lot more time at the potty than you will on the mountain, and that's not a good way to finish. So always test out your fuel. It's really nice to be able to, like, that you're going to have the scratch labs. If you, and I highly recommend, go ahead and get some and try it out. Like I said, I loved the chews. I didn't use the drink mix because I get flavor fatigue. I just like straight water. But I loved the chews. They're easy grab and go. They're light. You can throw them in your hand and eat them going up the mountain or coming down the mountain. And then also have a plan for what else you want to eat. Yeah, John.
So this is a picture of the only other Olympus Mons finisher, Triple Crowner, Quadzilla, Jack Jones. Jack ate something on every summit. So that's 122 summits, and Jack had something in his hand, piece of pizza, popcorn, Dorito chips, cheeseburger, whatever. He ate on every lap. And you'll find that some of these really dialed in, not ultra runners, but long distance hikers, they eat a lot, because hiker hunger's a real thing. He cracked me up. He had 2 laps to go and he was still eating. And he said, the secret to this is eating. And so he just ate the whole time. Scott, you were feeding him, weren't you?
Yeah, so that's one of the things I was going to say is when Jack got there, and I did this for everyone, but I had a vested interest because I wanted him to actually beat my time, right? And I told him, I'm your support. That's okay. But I was his support, and I thought, I'm your support. I picked him up from where he was going. I dropped him. I was his support, and he would come down and go, and I'd go, hey man, I'm going to go down to the pub and I'm going to grab a burger. Do you want one? Yes, I do. And I'd come back and I'd have a burger for him. If you're out there and I'm on the bottom, or Cliff is, or John is, and you're like, hey, can I get something? Chances are pretty good we're going to make that happen. We really want to provide the best support we can, and we really want you to succeed, period. So just kind of keep that in mind, that we're going to be with you every step of the way, whether that is, hey, I need a dry pair of socks. Okay, you know what? Or it's, you know what, I could use some electrolytes. Okay, great. When you come down, and I was literally throwing stuff at Jack. I threw him a slice of pizza because he didn't want to stop. And justifiably so. And when I was on the Appalachian Trail, I very rarely wanted to stop, and I had all the, whatever's in these pockets here, and I would eat my lunch as I'm walking. Same idea, always, nibbling on something. But we're going to be there for you every step of the way.
Yep. So we're going to be publishing a Mountain Athlete's Guide here in the next couple of weeks, and in it we talk about food a little bit. We do provide some food. We're working on a food truck to visit us once in a while, and for the last day especially. But again, bring what you want, right? Bring a cooler, bring you should show up ready for everything that we have you're not used to and you don't want to eat. But that may not be the case. We have oatmeal, we have ramen, we have snacks, we have fruit, we have the hydration mix, we have the scratch gels, and then gummies, and then we're going to have a food truck or two. But again, if you're not comfortable with trying something new on event day, which I don't recommend anyway until you're done, then bring a cooler with you, all the stuff that you need to succeed and fuel your endeavor.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I can't tell you how many times I made something for somebody to, they went up. Okay. When you come back down, they'll be waiting, right? Whether that was a hot tea or peanut butter and jelly sandwich or whatever, right? Oh yeah, and everyone just kind of put their stuff right around just back from the starting area, right, or from the turnaround area, and so nobody had to go hunt for, like, if Nancy, if you would say, hey, I want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and I didn't have to hunt through your stuff, right, your tent or wherever. Everything was right there. And I'm like, okay, great. When you come back down, or hey, I need a sandwich in 2 laps. Okay, great. So then I know it. And then you come down right there at the bell. Bing, and you're off.
Yeah, so absolutely. And so I would just recommend, like, have your plan. Like I said, have a plan, stick to it as long as it's working. You have the beauty at IronHike, you have the beauty of fairly short ascents. So you can do it like number of ascents or by the hour, like every time down, like saying Jack did, or you can do like every hour. You need to make sure you're taking in. My recommendation, and again, this is very generalized, but during the event, you want to try and shoot for somewhere between 16 to 24 ounces of water per hour and somewhere between 150 to 400 calories, depending upon your body size and exertion, per hour. And you don't want to vary from that. Like Scott said, don't quit at the end. You got to keep putting that in your body and really be consistent with it. Just whether you feel like it or not, it's just got to go down the hatch. As Scott said, we will be there. We will all be there for you guys. If you have any questions that we didn't get to today, please know that I'm available by email anytime. It's just Patty, Patty, at pattyw.com. Hit me up. I'm happy to answer any questions that might not have gotten answered here. And of course, John and Scott, you can get through them through IronHike. And so, we got a couple of minutes left. Did you guys have any questions about any of this before we wrap up? Because I want to be cognizant of your time. Everybody good? Awesome. All right. So you have permission to go practice eating and drinking.
Thanks, guys. I am excited. First time I've done a hike like this outside of Killy, I guess. So I'm excited, and yeah. So John, thanks for answering all my texts and everything.
Yeah, you're welcome. We're real excited to have you. We really enjoy people who kind of get in their own head why they're there.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about our whys, and I did want to mention that our next session is on one month from today. They're monthly right now, and that's March 26th, and that one's about mindset techniques and managing self-talk. And so we're hoping to get a bigger turnout. We have 21 people registered for these. I guess I'm hoping that the emails are making it to them and not landing in their spam folder. So I'll look at that from a technology standpoint.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. Hope you have a fantastic evening. Christine, looking forward to meeting you on the mountain. I grew up in Tanzania, so my class field trip was climbing Kilimanjaro. So I can't wait to talk to you about it.
I want to hear more about that next time.
Cool.
All right, bye. We'll see you on the mountain.
All right, you guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. How do I?